Thank you all again for tuning in to Film Study, an all-American podcast. I am Lexi, and again, here I am talking with Naya, and we're talking about Olivia Baker and her character development, and specifically sort of her relationship with Laura, and really the Baker women as a whole. We're talking about the Baker women as a whole in this episode, but we get a little bit more into Olivia's character development in season 3 and where we both see her right now. So I hope you enjoy. So what are your thoughts on where Olivia Baker is? So getting these 2 seasons of her development again, like we've mentioned, of her sort of, fumbling the bag, but all being a wallflower, but all distancing herself a little bit, but also still very much showing up for people, right? Showing up for Layla, showing up for her family, showing up for Asher, showing up for Spencer. I don't know. There's been so many things on Twitter lately that's just like anytime Spencer is mentioned like negatively, she like just goes off on people and she's like, "Why are you talking about? Why are you talking about my man?" No.
Yes, that's
So
been
anyway,
funny to
but
see.
yes, it's so hilarious to like go back and watch all of those. But
Mhm.
yeah, so she had this development, and we were rooting for her, and now in season 3, she is the girl, who broke Spencer's heart.
Oh God. Oh my gosh. And
Which
oh
again,
gosh.
I have a difference of opinion on that one. I'm
Oh my
like,
God, we
he
definitely have
could
to
have.
talk about it. Just like just her movements in terms of like Olivia is just wild to me. Like after seeing, obviously we've seen episode 7, and it's so
Mhm.
crazy. You start watching the season, and just immediately with episode 1, you're like, holy crap, this is what is going on? Like these two
Their
people
dynamic
who
completely changed.
yeah, completely changed, and it was a shock because it's like
Mhm.
I don't think anybody was expecting that, to see how
No.
much, and you could obviously tell that something major had happened over the
Mhm.
summer.
Yeah.
And so it's like, these two people who have always been, I think, a solid force in each other's lives, and they've always had that friendship to rely on. You, start watching episode 1 of season 3, and you're like, wait a minute, these two people couldn't be on farther planets, and we don't even understand why. So then as the season progresses, you're like, what the hell happened between these two? You have these
Yes.
theories, and you think you know what happened, and then you see
And then you
episode
find
7,
out and you're like,
and
oh, that's what
oh,
happened.
yeah, and it's triggering as hell. Like episode 7 is so triggering. It's like it's crazy. Just like the last 3 minutes, which, you know what, the writers are so
I'm I've said it once,
cannot.
I'll say it again. In season 3A, we were living and surviving in them last 10 minutes of the show, because it would be like,
Yes.
things weren't happening, we weren't finding out stuff, and then them 10 that 850 hit.
But not even that, like, it would be, like, the last 3 minutes, and
Yeah,
you're like, "How
true,
does all
fair.
of it," it's like, "Do, do, 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 do," for, like, the remain like, half of the episode, and then
For
you get to, like, the
35 minutes of the
last
show, and then
right, and then you get to, like, the last 3 minutes, and you're like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 wait, let me rewind. Did I miss something? Did I miss the
yeah,
buildup?" It was insane how
it was
episode
crazy.
7 happened. I was not prepared.
No,
I was like,
it
the
was
whole
I.
episode, you're like waiting. Okay, when are we gonna see what happened? When are we gonna see what happened? And I think that's the kicker. That's how they get us. The writers, they wrote that episode amazingly, because it was like, we know that they're gonna be thinking about and want to know what happened with Olivia, but they're not gonna get it until we want to give it to them. And then
Yes.
the last 3 minutes is like, holy crap, this all happened in 3 minutes of the last 3 minutes of the episode,
Yeah.
and you're still trying to catch your breath by like the next episode coming out
Mhm.
the next week. It's insane. But
Yeah.
getting the context of what happened in episode 7, you look back at everything and you're like, Olivia, what were you doing?
She was
Olivia,
messed up.
why? What
She
was
was
the
sick.
reason? And Cardi B, insert Cardi B's. What was the reason? Like, it was just emotional terrorism by
I
Olivia
don't know.
Baker.
Someone said that today. I was just like, I don't know if I would call it emotional terrorism. I
I
think,
don't know, girl. I think it was emotional terrorism because she put us through some unnecessary, like her getting back with Asher was really unnecessary.
but
She
she
started
left
that
for
ball.
Asher. She left for Asher though, and Layla.
Yeah, but see now, and shout out to Erica Vane. I think she's
Well,
kind
I
of,
think that there was a part of her. There were several reasons I think that she left, but one
I
of the
think,
reasons I think
yeah,
was truly for what she said is that she thought it was a selfish decision for her, even though
which,
all of these other things could be true about doesn't choose happiness and all of these things.
yeah,
Uh,
I do like, I think it definitely did play a role, but I don't think it was as big of a role as she wanted to make it seem, or as we
mm,
wanted to believe. I think
yeah,
at the end of the day, you know, Spencer and Layla were not together, and Asher and Olivia were hanging, like, I forgot that they, like, were technically on a break, but not really on the break. To me, I thought they were broken up too. But I guess, like, if you want to say, okay, Layla and Asher, because we care about these people and it is complicated and messy in a way, okay, I can see that. And I'm not saying that it didn't play a factor, but I
mhm,
think it wasn't the biggest factor. I think that was an easy thing to kind of hide into, as Olivia.
yeah.
And even like after that, like, okay, you had some time, you took yourself to Mexico, and obviously that didn't happen the way you wanted it to, and you came back home, and you had time to, like, still talk to
Yeah,
Spencer and figure it out. And I mean, obviously we see that she was not in a good space, like,
yeah.
during the whole summer, but specifically towards the end of the summer, that's when it started to really ramp up, with the drinking. But, like, you really were avoiding Spencer at all costs. And then when he literally takes, it has to be like 3 buses from Crenshaw to Beverly
She
to come
didn't know
see
that.
you.
She did not know that.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, you didn't even tell this man that you were
Yeah.
doing this. You haven't spoken to him. And
Mhm.
then the first time he sees you is at, obviously the mural, painting thing in, episode 1 at Beverly. And you just don't want to talk about this at all. And it's
You were
like, what
like,
is
"Liv, you
Spencer?
got some splaining to do."
Right. Spencer's like checking, like trying to check you, like, well, not like check you, but like
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
to
yeah.
come see you, see about you, like Crenshaw to Beverly. We know that's a ride, that's a trip. Dragging Chris through the heat to come see you because he really, like, was really trying to see you. I think really trying to connect, and you just shut him down at all costs. And so I'm not saying that what Spencer did after was right with getting back into a relationship with Layla, but I kind of feel like the man was like, damn, I mean, she really just doesn't feel the same way. So she really put Spencer through some stuff.
That's so funny. You think he felt that. I
I
just have
think
a
so.
different perspective on the way that Spencer was acting.
Okay, go ahead. Go. I want to hear.
Because I just released me and Monda did an episode on this and what
Yes.
Olivia knows about Spencer's love.
Hmm.
And it's interesting though because specifically with him coming, we know that he's in love with her, right? They're in love with
Hmm.
each other. We know that, and we saw him interact with a therapist and talking about her. We saw him taking those 3 buses, but it's just like, does Olivia really think that? From what she's seen. And so it's really interesting, specifically with him taking the buses to go to be there for her Black Lives Matter painting, because it's just like for both of them, communication works two ways, and y'all haven't
Hmm.
spoken in
That
two
is
and a
true.
half
Yeah, he did
weeks.
say that.
And this is the
Hmm.
Spencer James who called Kia the night after
But you know
the
what?
next
That's what,
morning.
and I think someone, I think it was Eric. I'm gonna be referencing Erica
Yeah,
Vane all
do
throughout this
it.
video
That's
because
where we be hyping every day.
yes, she's just amazing, like, with her perspectives. And I think she said that Spencer coming to the mural painting was really a delayed reaction. Like, it was a delayed chase, like, in terms of, no, seriously, like, it was a
No, I know,
delayed
I know.
chase.
I just
Yeah.
the Spencer
Yeah.
James is getting the smoke for me from 3A, specifically for 3A.
It was just like a delayed reaction,
No,
like,
yeah.
of, okay, it's been some time, I wanted to give her space. And so let me really, like, show up for her, and maybe we can have this conversation, maybe not, but I just want to see her.
Mhm.
And that him really going to the mural painting was definitely, I think, delayed, like a delayed reaction of,
Yeah.
okay, let me go see about her.
Mhm.
Um, and I think, I think that's what it was. I think
Oh, I'm
Spencer
sure.
really, was trying to just get back to a,
He didn't know whether he was coming or
no,
going. Liv has
right.
him
It
all
was
the way
like
messed up.
he was trying to regain some kind of stability. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I need her in my life, like, even if it's not like romantic, like, I still, like, need her in my, I
Mhm.
can't function really without her in my
Yeah.
world. So I'm gonna go see her, because that's what I do and that's what we usually do. I think he was just trying, I think in that whole episode of episode 1 of season 3, he was trying to get some form of stability, some form of what it was. I think
Mhm.
with Layla, with Olivia, he was just trying to find a place of, normalcy again.
Yeah.
And, he obviously made some missteps, but, I just think that's what
They
I
both
think for
did.
me, what Spencer was thinking and how he was
Yeah.
navigating in that episode
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah. Whereas again, Olivia was, doing what she does best, lying and hiding.
And running, child, running like a track star.
Running.
Okay,
She's
running
a
for the
runner.
hills.
She's a track star.
Certified. Okay.
She's joining the track team at what is it, Bringston?
Yes, at Bringston. Yeah, right next to Simone. Simone's gonna be on the tennis team. She need to be like, jumping hurdles and stuff. Because
Yeah.
the way Olivia has ducked and dodged every single issue,
Yeah.
confrontation, oh Lord, child, we love her, but it's been a
It
lot
was
of
it was
that.
really it was really really heightened this season. It was
Mhm.
interesting to watch because you saw yeah, her mother, right, when her mom when Laura suspected that she was using again, you saw her sort of like wanting to admit but then not really admitting it either. And you were just like, What is going on with you, sis?" Like
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. It was like, um, after that episode, I think it was episode 5, at the end of episode 5, I was like, okay, we didn't see her pour out
Mhm,
her water bottle, but,
mhm.
it was like, okay,
We
well, the
thought that she
assumption for
was just
me,
like,
right, the assumption for me was like, okay, that really woke your ass up. The fact that your
yes.
mom almost caught you, right?
Mhm.
And so I was like, okay, that's just me like trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. That's like a, just a internal thing, just like the go-to because you love her
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
And episode 6, we didn't see any of her, like we didn't see the water bottle, we didn't see any traces. So it was like it was easy to forget with everything that was going on that no, this is still like an issue or not.
Yeah.
And then obviously we see episode 8 at the end of
Yeah.
episode 8, and we're like, oh you
And
ain't got
episode yeah,
was
yeah.
episode 8, not even at the end of episode 8, but just because we saw her drinking out the bottle again, it was like,
Thinking
yeah,
before
you
she
didn't
confronted
fix
Layla.
anything
Yeah.
about this situation. You did not do anything to stop drinking. So yeah,
If there was ever an episode where it was just like, are we getting normal live back? That was the cabin episode.
yeah, right,
And
yeah,
then
exactly.
eight
That's the
came and they were like, no.
the writers are like, yeah, we're gonna like lure you into a false
We're
sense of
gonna all the way,
security.
but she was digging through a trash can in 9.
Episode 9, though, like hands down, one of my, and I've been very vocal about this, one of my favorite episodes of just this show, and then just like probably one of my episodes that I've seen like in any kind of TV show. Like just the
Yeah.
way it was written, Samantha Logan killed it.
Yeah,
Just
she did.
every Daniel Ezra always kills it, but it was
Mhm.
just like the episode was just amazingly written from beginning to end, and it took you through everything, all the ups and downs of just addiction, and then just Olivia. It was just like one of my favorite episodes ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like that was at her
But it was a
lowest
lot.
low.
I'm
It was a
tired.
lot.
I'm tired.
It was a lot, but it was like like seeing the episode, I was ready for it,
Mhm.
but obviously wasn't ready for it, how emotional
Yeah.
it was going to be because I was in tears.
It
But I
was
was like,
it
this
was
is
a lot.
needed. Like
Yes.
we
No, it
needed
was
to get
needed.
to this point with Olivia. And I appreciate them going there because it was like, if it's going to burn up in flames, then it needs to just do it this way because she's
Mhm.
got to get it together. She
Yeah.
has to get help. So yeah, I mean, it was hard to watch, but obviously it was the best thing for Olivia. And then moving forward, we're obviously seeing her in the, beginning stages of getting back on the wagon. And I think it can only go up for her.
Mhm.
But obviously it's not going to be without its struggles.
Yeah.
But as we've seen, with this
Yeah.
latest episode, which we've been
Ugh.
talking a lot about. I
Yes.
know I have been on Erica Vane's videos because it's just been like really, interesting, heated like discussions just based on the last episode, episode 11, which
Yeah.
also was a really good episode.
Yeah, we just have not gotten breaks with Liv. We're just like, okay,
No.
episode 6, she's sort of back to normal. Episode 7, it's a flashback, so it doesn't really count in this timeline. And then
Hmm.
it was just like 8 and 9 were just a roller coaster. 10, you're just like, all right, she's she's on the rise. She's on the rise. And then 11.
Yeah, 11, it's like, all right, like, yeah, she's
I'm rooting for
really
you, and also,
scared.
why are the writers just let her be happy? Just let her live, have an episode where she's happy. But where do you see that going? Since she has released the footage, we know that.
Okay, so I have been very vocal about the fact that I don't have a problem with
Hmm.
Olivia releasing the body cam footage and
Yeah.
even doing it the way that she did, you
Hmm.
know. I think, there's been a lot of difference of opinion of sort of she shouldn't have done it that way and she made a rash decision. And, obviously it's going to put her mom's job and, the relationship with her mother in jeopardy. And it's definitely going to have major repercussions, which I'm not naive to.
Hmm.
But me personally, I don't have a problem with it
Yeah.
because I just think that sometimes you just, especially with something like this, with police brutality, and this has plagued us as Black people as a community for so long.
Exactly.
And it's just been like it's been so much of a pattern, and you're just utterly exhausted by it as Black people. Like, I think that, and then obviously with Olivia, her realizing her privilege and how that played into her situation with the
Yeah.
cops, and sort of how that related to Tamika's situation, Tamika Pratt, the character in the
Yeah.
show. And sort of her stepping into her Blackness a little bit more, and realizing her own privilege and how that has impacted her Blackness and her navigating through the world. I just think a combination of that, and then I don't know if you read the interview with the showrunner
Yes.
NK
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
Her, which really stood out to me, was the one line where she says, like, to Olivia, her standing by and doing nothing,
Was more harmful.
more harmful to her sobriety. And I think that's an important thing to note, because I think, it's quick for, I think, all of us to be like, okay, well, this could be a red flag, because this could be her, once again, jumping into someone else's issue, trying to fix it, and,
Mm.
to not deal with her own issues.
Yeah.
But for me, I don't really see it that way. I think it could be a red flag for
Mhm.
sure. And I don't think that, just because Olivia's gotten back on the wagon, recently, that means that everything's all good and she's all fixed.
Exactly.
Obviously, addiction and sobriety is a day by day kind of thing. And she's definitely not going to have all the answers and make all the right decisions moving forward.
Mhm.
But in terms of this, I feel like it was the only thing she could really do. Like, the survivor's guilt was crippling and
Yeah.
really, I think, going to damage her sobriety and her more if she hadn't have done things that way, than, if she just didn't do anything. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I feel like for Olivia, for me, I feel like this really, I feel like for me, is her awakening in a way. I feel like it's different than before, where it was like, okay, we felt like Olivia was in a somewhat good place, maybe towards the end of season one, and maybe, in season two as well. But I think right now, I feel like Olivia is, I don't know, I feel like she's waking up in a way and
Mhm.
kind of stepping more into her power. I think we're starting to see the beginnings of that, because I mean, even if we saw in the trailer preview for the next episode, she's like, yeah,
I
I
did
did
it.
it. I did it. And
You're
what?
looking for someone, you looking for me?
Right. Come see me if you want the smoke.
Come
And
see me. I will take all of the smoke.
all of the smoke. And we
Yeah.
see her really, obviously we saw her take accountability, in episode 9 with Spencer, and sort of the position that she put him in. And obviously that trickles into episode 11, and sort of her realizing, the situation with me and Tamika, is the only difference between me and Tamika is that she pulled over, she had the good enough sense to, stop driving, and I kept driving. And the fact that my mom's a white lady in a position of power, that saved me. There
Mhm.
was, that's the real difference between me and Tamika. And that's a small difference.
Yeah.
Tamika didn't have a white mom to save her. And so I think Olivia realizing that, and I think, oh my gosh, Erica Vane, she just put out this video, and she said, like, Olivia stepping more into her Blackness, and, stepping and rejecting her privilege, subconsciously is kind of rejecting her mother. And that was really, I think, like really powerful because I think it's the truth. I think Olivia's starting to realize certain things about her privilege and, I think trying to find her identity. I think both Jordan and Olivia are doing that.
Mhm.
And I think in a way that, her releasing that body cam footage was her ultimately rejecting the privilege that exists
Yeah.
and, in her family and, with her, and also her stepping more into her blackness. And unfortunately, Laura is just a casualty of war, and it's not a
That part.
personal attack, but
Yeah.
it just is what it is. And for me, I feel like I went off track. I'm sorry.
No,
But
no,
I
you're good.
feel like yeah, I feel like with Olivia, I don't know. I feel like it feels like a different kind of development. I feel like it's more, I think, for me, positive, because I feel like it's not like she released it and like you have no other way but to kind of own that I did this. Um and I just think Olivia did what needed to be done. That's just
Listen,
my stance. I'm sorry.
I am right there with you and my own thoughts about it. And I do like I work in diversity, equity, inclusion spaces, and so I'm
Mhm.
like, burn it all down, okay?
Burn it
My
all down.
personal opinion. But no, no, it is true. And one thing that I say as far as the character of Olivia is that she thinks about wide ranging ramifications when it doesn't have to do with her. Like so like
Yeah.
she when it comes to her own happiness, she really like rejects things, but when it concerns other people, I really do think that she puts thought into it. And for this specific act of her releasing the footage, I do think that she thought it through, because in that speech she has that part about burning it down, about rebuilding, about doing all of this stuff. So yes, she did it. Yes, she's an impulsive teenager, but for Olivia, I do think that she thought it through. And maybe she was subconsciously rejecting her mom. I think she was definitely rejecting her, like, the privilege that she grew up with, and definitely stepping more into her blackness. And I love that for her. I love that for her. And uh, two things. So show wise, I really don't feel like, if we were only getting sort of negative repercussions from this, that they would have taken that strong of a stance. Because what is it saying, right? That they're saying a strong message like defund the police, and then only
Mhm.
negative repercussions happen after that. Like, that's messy, and that's, I would personally not like if they went that route, because they broadcast to a lot of people. And so don't muddle up this message that is already very muddled up in the
Right.
real world.
Right.
So
No,
from the
for
show
sure.
perspective, I just don't think that they would take that strong of a stance if it was only going to be negative. And then number two, right? I just, again, like, there are positives that I feel like can come out of this for Tamika's family and for the city of Crenshaw. And I am really excited to see sort of how and the ways in which Laura will grow from this, because I do think
Me
that she will
too.
grow. And I
Me
think
too.
that, we, number one, we haven't gotten to see much of Laura's development, and much of it, and we're starting to see more of Olivia's development. I have some thoughts on overall on the how the women of this show are developed, but we're not going to get into
Uh,
that today. But
yeah.
excited to see more of both of those developments and their development as a mother and daughter, because yeah, that's a relationship that I do root for on the show, because we know Billy's not a dad. So
Oh God. And that's the thing. It's like with Laura, I think a lot of people are like, you know what, Laura needs to, slap some people because Laura's just
yeah.
taking it from all ends. And I'm like, I do get it. Like I feel for Laura in the sense of obviously she's, a bit absentee and a little bit forgetful, but not
Mm,
intentionally. And I think
yeah.
if we're talking about in comparison
To
to
Billy.
Billy, yeah, she's the better parent, and that's just what it is.
Definitely
But
better.
she's
And she
definitely
tries.
not.
She
Yeah,
tries.
she
That's what I always
tried.
say. Like, I love Laura because she tries. Like, she's not perfect at it by any means, but she
Hmm.
tries.
Yeah, and I think yeah, I feel like Laura is kind of in a way, Erica, once again, Erica Vane, she pointed this
Mhm.
out. She kind of is like Laura is on like this little island by herself. And I feel like Laura's definitely taking on a lot and having to deal with a lot and
Mhm.
not really understanding how to navigate it all. My only issue with Laura is and I feel strong. She's been kind of getting on my nerves recently, just kind of, and it's only like small things. Obviously, the
Was it the
whole
friend comment for Jamone?
no, because okay,
Oh.
so with that, thing, I feel like, obviously Simone and Laura were both on edge and they both took it out on each other because
Mhm.
everyone cares about Jordan. Everybody loves Jordan.
Yeah.
And I think with Laura, okay, you have a right to be angry and mad that your son decided to get married to his girlfriend in high
Yeah.
school, like, and that you're just finding out about it. You can be mad about that for sure. But
Mhm.
I feel like her going hard in the paint about trying to get this marriage annulled, it's like,
Mhm.
girl, at the end of the day, what's done is done. It's their choice to make. They're about to graduate high school. You kind of just have to like let things be. Like, if it doesn't work out, which it probably won't, in terms of like, high school marriage, like,
Yeah.
it's, you know what I mean? And going off to college, you know what I mean? Like,
You
it might
like her
not work out.
priorities are different, especially in this last episode when there's literally people screaming for justice and you're worried about annulling the
Right,
marriage.
exactly. It's kind of just like let it go. Like at the
Yeah.
end of the day, they did it. It's done. Like let it be. Like, and I feel like you're once again focusing on you're trying to go so hard because once again you fail to clue into your kids and you don't know what's going on with them. So now you're trying to overcompensate. Let it go. So that was getting on my nerves with the whole annulment thing, which I think
That
that's
makes
going to
sense.
continue to
Yeah, like
increase.
yeah, that part about I like how you phrase that overcompensating and she does that is
She
something that
does
we
that a
see from her.
lot.
She overcompensates when she's worried that she's not connected to her kids. And so I hope that they explore that more.
Me too. And like I really hope I think it's a perfect opportunity to really dive into Laura as a character because I feel like my issue also um with Laura specifically in episode 11 for me it didn't sit right with me that she cuz you're the DA
Mhm.
and you're handling this case like your job is to really prosecute this case and I feel like you had every capabilities of releasing this body cam footage
Yeah.
and bump the public like to Tamika's family like you don't think they have a right to know what happened to their daughter like
Yeah.
even if you needed to release that separately and privately with Tamika's family like just to not release it at all when it's evidence like why do you not feel like you need to release that and I feel
Mhm.
like that's a problem that you just don't kind of see how that's an issue and then in her conversation with Olivia towards the end of the episode where she is saying well I grieve for Tamika's mother every single day but you and Tamika's situations are different it's like okay so now we're tapping into the blissful unawareness and sort of
Yes.
the
I was
ignorance
not
that you
pleased with Laura
have
in that moment.
as a white woman and that for me because you're blissfully unaware and ignorant which I have a problem with because you don't have the luxury to be unaware like you have
Mhm.
two black kids like you don't have the luxury in the room like this
Yeah.
affects you directly and for you to think that Tamika and your daughter's situations were different that's an issue because that means
Yeah.
that you don't know like you're not tapped in and I think it's sort of a problem with I think white people as a general
Yeah.
that they're unattached they're removed from that it's like if it
Mhm.
doesn't affect them which it doesn't affect them then they don't have to really worry about it and I feel like even when she said I grieve for Tamika's mother okay you might grieve for her mother as a mother but as a black woman grieving her black daughter, and the reason why her daughter was killed was because she was a black woman, like
Yeah.
you can't relate to that. And that's your privilege and, just your kind of lack of understanding because you don't really have to understand that feeling because you don't
Mhm.
have to go through it.
Yeah.
But not really, because you have a black daughter. So that's what I have an issue with Laura. And just the way that I kind of felt like you not releasing that footage for me feels like you are trying to protect these cops.
Mm.
And that's an issue for me because you having black kids and they both have had interactions with the cops that could have
Yeah.
ended really badly for them. And the only reason why it didn't was because it was a good day and also because of the fact that their mother is a white woman in a position of power. I feel like that should play into you like being in a position of in a position of power directly in the system trying to not fuel the system that already doesn't protect us as black
Yeah.
people and already oppresses our black lives but trying to make it a little bit better trying to change it one step at a time and I feel like with Laura that conversation was kind of an eye opener to me that oh like I don't know if you are really trying to protect Tamika's family. Like it looks like you're trying to protect these cops. And so that
Mm,
was my issue with Laura. And I feel like she was brushing Olivia off, not maybe on purpose, but that's you can almost
that's
argue
how it
is
came out.
it's yeah, you could almost argue is as problematic, you
Mhm.
being very unaware of how, what you're saying doesn't line up to your actions.
Yeah.
Because you could say that you grieve for Tamika's mother, but your actions show us that you were trying to protect these cops because why
Yeah.
else hold on to that footage? You know what I mean? Like, so that's why I kind of feel like I can't be mad at Olivia for doing what
No.
she did.
No, and I definitely think that conversation with her mom again opened her eyes to revealed another level of her privilege because I don't think that at the time she thought that her mom would have said something like that. And I also like these are very deep issues, obviously, because the show has to they get into deep
Right.
issues. But that's also a very like normal family thing when you realize that your parents aren't perfect, and
Right.
not to say that she thought that her parents were perfect, but there's there's levels to that, and you realize like the ways in which your thinking is different maybe from your families and how you grew up and what you've learned growing up, and you really start to come into that, and that's really sort of it can be jarring. And we saw that what Olivia did with this and did with her sort of newfound knowledge was just like again make an active decision that like I know this could potentially affect my mom. So of course she knew that it could affect her mom, but she was just like, but I'm at a point right now where getting justice or attempting to get justice is more important than what could potentially happen to my mom's career. And as she should.
Right, and that's
As
how
she
I feel
should.
about it. I'm like, I can feel for Laura personally because at the end of the day, that's her daughter,
Yeah.
and she can feel betrayed and
And they
hurt
will
in the
work it out.
fact.
Like it's TV. Like it'll be fine.
Right. I mean, but I do think it's going to be interesting to see how it affects
Yes.
and how much because I kind of feel like there's been a big disconnect in the Baker household just in general. And it's so much more than the parents don't see what's going on with the kids. It's
Yeah.
like, I think it really does play into the fact that it's an interracial relationship. The
Yeah.
mother is white, the dad's black, and sort of the fact that identity and sort of these two kids trying to figure out their identity and figure out who they are and like really struggling with, I think, their own blackness because they
Hmm.
sort of have been removed from it, being in
Yeah.
Beverly Hills, and the fact that their father really was trying to run from his own roots, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, and not being really introduced to it. So they're both kind of coming into it, at this stage as teenagers, and it's been really interesting to see just in different ways. I mean, Jordan took his ass to Crenshaw to go get advice from, like, he would not get off the couch for 2 weeks, and then when he finally decided to get off the couch, decided to go to Crenshaw to go see Spencer. Like, that just shows that Jordan was really, looking and seeking for Spencer's perspective and just like in
Yeah.
the world of Crenshaw, like that. And, even in that way, Jordan is kind of navigating and coming into his own blackness in a way. So as
Yeah.
they both are coming into themselves, it's obviously starting to play out where that's why I say, like, or going back to Erica Vane's point, that she is subconsciously rejecting her mom because her mom is the symbol of the privilege in her life. So
Mhm.
it's not a personal attack on Laura, but it can feel that way, and I understand it. um but I think this is a case where Laura, as a white woman, you can be in your feelings and feel hurt and feel betrayed, or are you going to step outside of all of that and really understand why your daughter did what she did?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's easy, I think, as white people to be very defensive and very entitled to their own feelings, and they don't hear anybody else.
Yeah.
They just won't allow themselves to see things from a different perspective. And this is Laura's opportunity to do that,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, your daughter, I don't think, did what she did to hurt you.
No.
She did it, I think, as a way, like, not I feel like she did it just as much for Tamika and the Black community as a whole as she did it for herself. Like, she didn't, I don't think, just did it for Tamika. I think she did it for herself. I think she, like I said, did it for the Black community, obviously, as a whole, because I think it just affects all of us. We're all connected in that way. And I think, I
And
feel for Laura in a personal level, but
yeah,
business wise, she'll be all right.
business wise.
Okay, she's a white
That's
woman
amazing.
in America.
That's
She'll be all right.
Yeah, and I think to that point, I love how this really became sort of
I
where
know, right?
the Baker's character development as a family, because we know that they
Right.
have their issues. We didn't touch on Jordan and Billy as much, but that's fine.
That's fine.
Uh,
It's about the ladies
it's
anyways.
it's about the ladies, and so yeah, it's so it. I again will be interested. Your last point around Olivia choosing not just Tamika and the Black community and herself. Again, this is me, the helper that Liv is.
Right.
But also in a way, right? If we're talking about like subconscious, unconscious,
Mhm.
also her mother, right? Because
Mm.
she left that conversation. We know that Liv protects her mother. She did it with her dad. She did it
Right.
when Jordan was having his issues with her mother, and she was reassuring her.
Grandpa Willie,
Yeah,
who's
Grandpa.
always choosing
Oh, she will
violence.
always choose violence with Grandpa. She's not here for him. Side note: one of my favorite lines of this season was, "And then I can invite my mom to the cookout.
Right,
We'll have
because
a
it's just
cookout."
kind of like you always want to, you're coming into her in her house multiple
Yeah,
times saying she's not invited to the
he's a
cookout
mess.
when you're not invited to the cookout.
He's a
Nobody wants
complete
you in the
mess.
cookout.
Sorry, another side note, and I know we gotta end this conversation soon because
Right.
we're running up on time. But
Yes.
Grandpa, people were like, "Oh, Jordan and Olivia need to spend some time with Grandpa Willie." No, they do not. The
No, they
man who
do
tried to get
not.
money from Jordan, the man who
Right.
was messy from the very jump. No, no,
That
he's
man
not gonna
doesn't.
teach them anything.
No, that man does nothing but cause stress and problems. He's messy, as we've seen, a messy
Literally,
old man who has his own issues. He's
exactly.
grouchy, and he just brings negativity. We no,
Negativity all the time.
Jordan spent his time with Grandpa Willie. Like, no, thank
Exactly.
you.
And
We're done.
Olivia would just go off on
No.
him all the time. So, yes. Oh, shoot, what was I saying? I don't even remember. Oh, but just their character development as a family, I do feel like because she has so much love for her mom, like she is also in this way sort of blowing up her mom's world in a way that's just like, I'm also going to teach you about your own privilege, because that's what that's what this
Right.
vehicle of the storyline is for. And so whether she did it
Mhm.
like consciously or unconsciously, it's also a way
Mhm.
for her mom and her and their entire family, right, to have a conversation about privilege and them, being a biracial mixed household. And so I'm looking
I
forward to how the writers write that.
I agree. Me too. I feel like I've said, it's easy to be like, oh, Lord, it's really about to go down. This is really about to be bad. But I feel like it might be a real blessing in disguise for the
Yeah.
Baker family because I feel like I said, there's been a major disconnect and it goes deeper than just sort of the obvious and the surface. Like,
Mhm.
there's conversations that need to be had. And I think as much as this is, Olivia's awakening in a way, it's
Mhm.
also Laura's awakening. And it's
Yeah.
going to be really interesting to see if we really get some obviously we've seen the conversation or we've
Yeah.
seen that there's going to be a conversation with her and Grace, which I think is
Mhm.
so needed.
Yes.
And I think it might be the best thing for Laura and Olivia's relationship as mother and daughter
Definitely.
moving forward. Obviously not,
Not
presently and
immediately. It's gonna get
automatically.
worse before it gets better, but there's
Right.
better is going to come. I truly believe
Exactly.
that.
In hindsight, it's I think going to this major rupture is
It's gonna
definitely
bring
going to
their family
be
closer, I
the
think.
best thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's just things that need to be talked about and discussed. Laura obviously needs to educate herself and really
Mhm.
check herself as
Mhm.
much as, we're starting to see Olivia start to check her own privilege. And I think it's only going to be a development of that. And you know what really bugs me? I don't know if you see this, but it really bugs me. Like some of y'all out there, like, I don't know if you understand the protagonist of the show is a black man, a young black man in America. And for you to think that Black Lives Matter and these racial issues were not going to be touched on in this show is a
Which
little bit jarring to
is
me
very
because
strange because it's not anything that they haven't done from the first season. So,
no,
that's just nonsensical to me, the people who
and
have those.
it's like in one sense I understand us as a black people as a collective, it's draining and exhausting at this point. We have to see it every day, we have to live through it every day, this kind of black trauma and black
Mhm.
pain, and there's become more of an issue with it being capitalized more in content and in film, and the
Mhm.
fact that it's always the go-to. And I get it, but I feel like I don't have a problem with it as long as it's done in a way that is pushing the conversations forward, and that in a way that is these stories are being told from a very human level. And I think we've
Mhm.
seen All American, like the writers have such an amazing grasp on that, and they're not doing it to glorify it, but these conversations have to be had. We have black characters on the show. So for
I'm
you,
watching it. Yeah.
why is it such an issue? Like, it
And
is what it is.
to that point, which is why I'm like, there better not just be negative repercussions, because do not say defund the police on network television and then come with negative repercussions only. We're not
Right.
doing that. We're not doing that. Please
No, which I don't think it's all going to be. I mean,
exactly.
obviously,
There's
you
gonna
don't want it
be
to
there's gonna
affect
be
the
drama. Yeah,
case,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
You don't want it to affect the case. And I mean,
But I
there's going
don't
to
think
be
it will.
fallout.
I don't think it will,
I don't think it
honestly.
will either, but I think we would be naive to
To
be
think
like
that
there's
there's
not going
gonna
to
be
be
fallout for sure.
fallout and
Yeah, yeah,
repercussions. But I think as much as they're going to be like, maybe some negative and some major, falling out, there's
shifting
also going to
shifting of
be
dynamics. Yeah, there's also gonna be some good stuff, and
positives. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure. So I'm definitely looking forward to this Black Lives Matter story arc that's coming up in these next couple of
same.
episodes. I'm here for it. I feel like people just like to complain because I've just seen a lot of complaints. Oh, there's not enough football. Oh, there's too much teen angst and romance and drama. Oh, now we're dealing with Black Lives Matter. Why couldn't they just spent one episode? Like, it's just like, listen, either watch the show or don't watch it, but don't like kill the joy for the people who do. I'm personally loving the pace and sort of the way that the second half of the season is going. We've gotten so much drama and angst and emotion, and we're still getting at that in the second half, but I am a fan of sort of what we're talking about in this second half of the season, and just
Yeah,
enjoy it. Like, okay, like,
that's
just
true.
relax,
It's a
you
good
know?
reminder for me. I feel like Olivia has been taken through the ringer in all of season 3, so I'm just like, can we give her some happiness, please, in the next 5 episodes? But yes,
Hmm. Yes.
enjoying the subject matter, enjoying it, it has been a really sort of entertaining way to see stories be told,
Yes,
for
for
sure.
sure. And at the end of the
My
day, we want Olivia to be healthy, thriving. We want her to be in a good space. And I
not
think
me
we're
bringing it
starting.
back to I'm like always Olivia Baker will always defend her. We'll die on that hill.
Right. I mean, listen, I've, been less quick to sort of jump the gun for her like all the time
I'm
because she has done
glad
some really skeptical things in this season that
we
I've
gotta
not been
call her out.
great. And you got to call her out. You can love, like I said, you can love a character and still be like, you know what, sis, you're tripping. And
Yeah,
I think Olivia, there's been a lot of those moments, but I feel like I really feel like it can only go up from here. I feel
for
like we've
sure.
seen her at the lowest, and I'm not saying that all of a sudden she's cured because they've done very well at depicting how nuanced and complex addiction can be, and she's
Mhm.
definitely not going to not have missteps moving forward. But I feel like in a lot of ways, I feel like she's going in a better direction than she has been.
Yeah.
Where I kind of feel like she was getting development in season 2, but I think was still not good internally.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff like that she just wasn't working through manifested and came out in the ugliest and darkest of ways. So I think it honestly feels like a better path of development for her as a character, and I'm here for it. I'm here
Yeah.
for her being like, I'm about to burn all of this ish
Oh,
down,
same. Oh, same.
and whoever's in it, I guess you're gonna be in it. And it's like, Lord, I'm bringing you down with me because you gotta come down too. And that's what she
That's
did when
weird.
she released that footage.
It's just
And
what she did.
I'm
That's
not mad at
amazing.
her.
That's a good note to like be like, that's where we're at. We're
That's
not
right.
mad. We're not mad at all. Thank you again for listening. Di and I just had such a fun time talking about Olivia and Laura and sort of where we see them right now in seasons 3. I hope that you stay tuned. I'm not sure when it's gonna drop exactly, but we're gonna be talking about Layla and Olivia soon, so stay tuned for that episode. And we'll also be talking about sort of All American in relation to some of the other TV shows, like teen drama TV shows that we see. So we have both of those conversations coming up. So I hope that you all tune in for that. Thanks again for listening, and take care.